slamming former President Obama on Twitter.
He says Obama was president up to and beyond 2016 election. So why didn't he do something about Russian meddling?
He mocked and chastised people who were warning about it.
I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
I can tell you our internal polling in the key battleground states shows a doubling of support for tax cuts. So while American people are getting more of their money, Democrats are doubling down against it.
As the March 5th deadline looms for a deal on DACA, the Supreme Court may step in as soon as today.
If they do take the case, they would hear it and decide it by June.
A brand new poll shows 77% think more effective health screening and treatment could have prevented last week's shooting in Florida.
The United States moves on. They advance to face the Czechs in a quarterfinal matchup here in Pyeongchang.
What's wrong with being confident? What's wrong with being confident?
Did you see that? There's not a single car on the avenue in the Midterms right now. No,
There really is not.
No, it is. Keep in mind, it's a Tuesday after a holiday Monday, and people aren't up yet, except us.
This is the benefit. This is the benefit of going to work so early in the morning for all of us.
But
no traffic.
I did go out to dinner last night on a Monday night, and I had to wait 20 minutes. I think everyone partied last night. They partied to their favorite president because yesterday was President's Day.
Look at that. Oh, there went a cab.
Right.
And, wait, what? You went out to a restaurant last night? You were partying
on a Monday night. I said I need to go out. It's really quick. You know, it's Monday night. I'll be able to go quickly eat and leave. And I had to wait 15 minutes on a Monday night because I sensed that either that it's also winter break.
Did you make a reservation?
No.
Okay.
But when you walked in, did they know who you were? Were they like, it's Brian Kilmeade?
No, absolutely not.
Escort him in. They made Brian Kilmeade wait.
How dare they?
Oh, boy.
It's incredible. That won't happen again.
All right. Well, we're setting the table, and we're going to tell you what is going on. Yesterday, the President of the United States sent out an interesting tweet. You know, the Mueller indictment on Friday, all about the troll factory and those 13 Russians. Well, the President of the United States wanted to know about, hey, why is everybody talking about me colluding? It was the former president who knew all about it before the election and beyond. He tweeted this.
He said Obama was president up to and beyond the 2016 election. So why didn't he do something about Russian meddling?
That's a fair question.
Yeah, in fact, if you think about it, for 8 years, the one thing that can characterize the Obama 8 years is we're going to reset things with Russia. Remember, the first thing he did is pull those the defensive missile system out of Eastern Europe. The second thing he did was send Secretary of State Hillary Clinton there with a reset button. And then, of course, him leaning over to Medvedev and saying, you know, after this election, we're going to be able to really, I'll be free to do a lot more things. And then when all this stuff came up with James Clapper in charge and John Brennan running the CIA, what news did they make in pushing back on Russia? Almost none.
Well, even Adam Schiff was saying, why didn't President Obama do something about this? He's the leading Democrat on the House Intel Committee.
That's right. So we're about to play for you a soundbite just about 3 weeks before the election of President Obama, who knew at the time the Russians were trying to rig our elections. And why did we know now that he knew? Because a month earlier, he said he had told Putin, knock it off. And he believed that Putin did. At least that's what he told the press. But nonetheless, listen to how the fact that the former president knew it was going on, yet diminished the fact that people were talking about it. Watch.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections. There's no evidence that that has happened in the past, or that there are instances in which that will happen this time. And so I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
And he did. And they came out yesterday. Jay Johnson came out yesterday and said, hey, listen, we tried to tell you, but it was the weekend of the Access Hollywood tape. Really? So one weekend after 8 years, you come out October 7th and say, yeah, we have evidence that Russia is doing something through social media to affect our elections. I don't really think that is that effective.
Right. But the president knew right then when he was saying that it was going on. But he said there is no serious person out there that would think that. There is no evidence that it has happened in the past. Stop whining, Mr. Trump.
See, when I heard that soundbite this morning, when we were preparing for the show, and we played back that soundbite from him, I thought, okay, well, this is another example about how President Trump was right. I mean, he predicted this when he was running, and people laughed at him. No one expected him to win.
Mitt Romney was right.
Mitt Romney was right.
Yeah.
So it just reminded me of how in touch he is with the American people and how the American people feel.
And you know what it underlines, too? If we could pull politics out of it, we were attack in a sophisticated way in which you expect Madison Avenue to come up with in another era. Inside our elections, they tried to divide us to the Russians through their bots, through social media, which we created, and have been quite effective. And the fact is, when a Michael Moore shows up at an anti-Trump rally after the election, and it turns out that was sponsored by the Russians, do you really think Michael Moore was collaborating with the Russians? It was unwitting collaboration. They can't have a collaboration unwitting. I apologize for that. An unwitting participant in this act. So we have to find a way to push back. Do you know that they're already working on dividing us after the horrific shooting on Wednesday? Sure. There's social media aspects pushing us apart on the gun program.
So if Americans were if this was unwitting, if Americans were not involved in this, why is the mainstream media pushing the collusion and continuing to do it? Is it because they just don't like this president?
Well, you be the judge, but here's one of the interesting things. Byron York tweeted this out yesterday. You know, we've heard so much about how these Facebook ads impacted the election, right? Although the Mueller indictment says that didn't really happen. The Russians, this is how much the Russian bot factory spent on Facebook ads in the important state of Pennsylvania. $300. You know how much they spent in Michigan? $832. You know how much the Russians spent in Wisconsin? They spent $54 after the primary. Do you think that turned an election? Come on.
Yeah, and the other thing is, there's a lot of people, you can put $1 zillion in, there's a lot of people who are just not going to, are not on social media, period. You know, it's not like you're doing direct mail that everyone's going to see, and you're buying billboards that you can't help but notice. Meanwhile, I sense that if it ended right now, we could go to attacking back and preventing this happening again. But unfortunately, people are waiting to see what Robert Mueller's coming up with next. And now they're starting to worry about the business aspect of people in and around the Trump organization. The last one rumored to be in the line of fire is Jared Kushner. So that's the distraction that keeps us from working on preventing the next Russian attack.
There's also a new poll talking about tax reform and what you, the American people, how you feel like it's affected your life. And it turns out this president, this administration, is actually winning over some Democrats, especially after Nancy Pelosi said this.
The debate on health care is life-death. This is Armageddon. In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic.
Well, it is putting the schmooze on Americans, and more Americans are approving about this the more they hear about it. Take a look. A brand new poll out right now, 51% of Americans approve of it. You go back to December, and it was 14% less. What's going on? Well, people are realizing they got a little more money in their paycheck, plus all of those tax cuts and impacting the companies, so they're able to give $1,000 bonuses, $2,000 bonuses as well.
That was New York Times Survey Monkey, and even though support remains low among the Democrats, it did double over the past 2 months.
Went from 8 to about 20%, so that's good news for the Republicans, because on the generic ballot, the Republicans, while they were down 15 points, what, a month or two ago? Now they are up by 1. We're going to talk to Matt Schlapp about that from CPAC in about 5 minutes.
But Republicans did get another body blow yesterday as a very popular, talented congressman from Florida, Congressman Rooney, said, I'm retiring, that is it. So another seat open. These rash retirements is something we should really look at. And you wonder what's going on there, because you're in the majority. If you're ever going to have an impact, now's the time you have an impact, and about 30 are heading for the gates.
Well, as Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, who could be for lower taxes, higher wages, and a booming economy?
Exactly. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. The phones were booming over at ABC. Apparently, they've received something like 25,000 phone calls over the last couple of days when Joy Behar said this.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you. That's different. That's called mental illness. illness if I'm not correct. I'm hearing voices.
So Christians are mentally ill, essentially. They said, she has since said she was just joking, trying to put it behind him, but a lot of people have hurt feelings.
The president of Media Research Center, his name is Brent Bozell. He's been on Fox a lot. He wrote this open letter, and he said he's going to start going after advertisers if she doesn't apologize because she offended so many people. He's encouraging Christians to tune out of that show and ABC if she doesn't come out and apologize.
I thought they were until we started giving them so much attention, but you brought that up with the vice president yesterday, a couple of days ago.
When I heard that ABC had a program that likened my Christianity to mental illness, I just couldn't be silent. My Christian faith is probably the most important thing in my life. I do try and start every day reading the Bible. My wife and I try and have a prayer together before I leave the house every morning. But I do think I'm a very typical American. I think people of all different faith traditions cherish their faith in God, and to have ABC have a forum that spoke in such demeaning terms, I think it's evidence of how out of touch some in the mainstream media are with the faith and values of the American people.
Well, the American people did call, as I said earlier, at least 25,000 phone calls to ABC that we know of.
Yeah, let us know what you think. We'd love to read your emails.
I'll tell you what, no one complains when we toss to Jillian, right?
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe they do.
Let's go check. Let's go see.
Send those emails in. Let us know.
Right.
Okay, no. Seriously, don't do that. Good morning to you guys. Good morning to you at home. Let's get you caught up on some of your news of the day, starting with this. Today, busloads of grieving students from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School will march on Florida's Capitol, demanding changes to gun safety laws. Their demonstration coming hours after a judge ruled the Florida shooting suspect's childhood records can go public. The documents revealing allegations that Nicholas Cruz lived in a home filled with abuse and neglect. Meantime, Stoneman Douglas High will reopen in phases starting Friday. Classes will likely resume next week. The building where the killings took place will be demolished. The FBI now joining the desperate search for a missing 5-year-old boy in Kansas. According to his stepmother, Lucas Hernandez was last seen inside his home on Saturday afternoon. When she woke up from a nap, he was gone and the back door was open. Police do not suspect Lucas was kidnapped. According to local reports, a relative called Child Protective Services last year, concerned about the child's well-being. Senate hopeful Mitt Romney getting a huge endorsement. President Trump tweeting his support, saying, quote, "He will make a great senator and worthy successor to Orrin Hatch and has my full support and endorsement." Romney tweeting